Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight? Give me the vibe. I want some vibe. We're in the RIBA, but we need some vibe in here. How's everyone doing tonight? Another one? All right, that's nice. I want to set the vibe high because today's going to be a nice night. So, welcome everybody. My name is Mark. This is Lauren. We are ex-students of Neil Pinder, who is the founder of HomeGrown Plus. Yes, big woo from Neil Pinder. Good big woo for HomeGrown Plus. Lauren's going to speak to you about what HomeGrown Plus is doing at the moment, and then I'll take you away with what NY-LON is, which is the program which we're celebrating tonight. Now, Lauren, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it already, but HomeGrown Plus is a not-for-profit organisation founded by Neil Pinder. If you don't know who he is, he's the man in white by the door. Dedicated to improving diversity within architecture and the creative industries. HomeGrown Plus Alumni is a growing network which includes people from all backgrounds entering different professions. Myself and Mark being just two examples, and many more that we have the pleasure of being surrounded by and inspired by this evening. We're working to address issues of diversity in architecture and beyond. We believe that only by including people from those non-traditional backgrounds in fields like architecture can improvements be made in the built environment and other areas of society. Although the intentions are there and many profess a commitment to diversity, this can be where it starts and ends, rooted in that bit of uncertainty about how to genuinely achieve it at all levels, outside of it being just that tick box exercise that I'm sure some of us are familiar with. This is where HomeGrown Plus works to actively bring us together and achieve the goals of enhanced cultural equity.
Thank you, Lauren. So NY-LON. NY-LON is, in short, that's New York, London, if you didn't know, quite clever, NY-London. NY-LON is an exciting architectural exchange program connecting young future architects, some who are apprentices and some who are studying Part 1 with the City of New York, and it's in collaboration with the Pratt Institute School of Architecture. The program supports young architects from non-traditional backgrounds. From over 100 applicants, 9 were picked, and 3 of them are here today to speak about their journey and what they're up to today. With what is happening nationally, with the cost of living crisis, and with constant funding cuts to the creative subjects being taught in schools, many state schools like the one we went to, which Neil teaches at in South London, feel the pressure most, stifling what would be the primary route into the creative fields. You could say there's also a cost of living there's also a cost of learning crisis. It is programs like NY-LON and organizations like HomeGrown Plus that genuinely make a difference, providing opportunities to connect to worlds that often seem distant or unattainable. Speaking from experience, I wouldn't be where I am without Neil Pinder, who encouraged me to be an architect. He simply is a force that wants young people to win and advocates and shouts for them in closed rooms. He also wears spectacular outfits. We've got an amazing lineup of guest speakers today, all from different backgrounds, united by their love for the built environment and the mission to broaden the voices that shape our futures. Tonight's speakers are all from different stages in their careers. We'll be hearing from those that have made waves, those that are making waves, and indeed those who are about to make waves. It's going to be wavy. So without further ado, I want to welcome on stage the RIBA President, Simon Allford.
Good evening, welcome to the RIBA. I saw people outside taking photographs of this building. What is the RIBA? It's a voluntary members club celebrating architecture. And I think that's what's really important, that everyone in this room can be interested in architecture. You don't have to become an architect. You might work in the built environment. It might be just something you enjoy engaging with. The more we all engage with each other in thinking about the built environment, the more we can make a real difference in the world. I'm not at COP because of a family bereavement, but the RIBA is at COP. COP, you'll be reading about in the news, you'll all be deeply aware of it. We face a massive challenge beyond the challenge of inflation or cost of living. We face a challenge to kind of redesign how we use the environment, how we engage with the environment, and how we think about the environment as a much bigger ecology than just that for us human beings. We're keen to reinvent the RIBA as a 21st century institute of ideas, a generous host. Tonight is about hosting NY-LON, HomeGrown Plus, and celebrating the idea that actually if we bring people together, architects, designers are generally, I think, quite generous people. They probably give their ideas away to clients too cheaply, but they do actually share with each other. And we've got to create a network, we've got to harness the talent in the profession and use that talent to create a better future profession, one that's more representative. The more representative it is of our society, the more able it is to actually address the problems that we face. We're a global membership club, network, and actually we need to kind of get messages out to each other and make better connections between each other. You know, Neil was talking about using his social media platform to connect with people. And that idea of discourse amongst us is really important. So we're going to face some really tough economic times, but actually tough times, there's a famous saying, you know, we have no money, now we have to think. And tough times kind of focus our thinking, and we've got a really tough time coming, not just economically, but with a whole attitude about what we make, why we make, and who we make for. We all, in different ways, live in and engage and make the built environment, but not on our own. This is not about a silo of the RIBA as an architectural professional institute. We should be that generous host to ideas and debate and recognise it's collaboration that kind of brings us all together to do things. Neil was made an honorary fellow of the RIBA this year. He's a teacher. He's a man of extraordinary vision, flair and generosity. I also think he works hard. His wife advised me he'll be working harder tomorrow on DIY at home. But he makes it also fun. You can be very, very serious, but you have to have fun. And tonight, obviously, will be a party, and that's really, really important beyond the conversation. So I'd like to also acknowledge Neil. I can't actually see his white outfit at the moment, but he's done an extraordinary amount to bring you all together. Now, we talk about a diaspora, and to me, the diaspora is not just different communities of people who live and work together in London, but it's actually about the idea that someone said someone had made a film and had dropped out of architecture. I don't think you drop out of architecture, you just choose not to become an architect. I think it's a wonderful education to kind of become engaged in problem solving, to get engaged in your community, to get engaged in kind of building a smarter, better world. So there are new models emerging of education that are going to be really important, level 6 and level 7 apprentices. Now, someone said to me recently, well, yeah, I love the 5-year course. Different courses for different people in different ways, earn and learn. These are not other courses. These will become vital sources of producing the talent of the future. And not everyone wants to go through the same kinds of models. So that's going to be really important. It's about new models of education, new schools, the London School of Architecture. Neil Chassor has been showing people around this building. You know, there's a course at Sheffield, there's Loughborough, there's Cambridge. There are others coming forward. All of that is about actually allowing people to access this profession. But before they get to accessing the profession, they have to know it exists. And that's really, really a tough challenge. I think a lot of people don't understand what architecture is. They go to a school. They may not go to Neil's school, they may not know what it is, they may not know what design is, and then they get told you need science, chemistry and maths. Well, you might have science, chemistry and maths that might be useful, but you might also have life experience that's useful. So different ways of coming in are going to allow the profession to serve society much better. On a personal level, I know that one of the apprentices who works in our office had the benefit of this amazing trip, and I know she found it kind of quite transformational. Everyone needs to work together. And I think that the big thing to do is to get into schools. The two presenters over there are talking about actually building up the confidence of the next generation to enter our industry, not just the world of architecture, but the world of designing and making and rethinking the built environment. Femi Orisanya, who's an architect of note and skill, he's also an RIBA council member. We've been talking about a built environment day where architects, engineers, clients go into schools, into junior schools, into secondary schools, and talk about this world that you're all intrigued by and make it accessible to them and offer them routes into it. So this is I think, a fabulous night. Thank you all for coming. You're obviously you are the night, you're going to make the night, but I'd like to end by really just saying, Neil, you're a star. It's fabulous you've done this. It's great that you're harnessing the energy in this room to kind of help us all build a better future. So well done, Mr. Pinder. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Simon. Okay. The next person I'd like to bring up, throughout her education, Bareera Borhan, has been commended. She received a wealth of admirable awards, including being nominated for a RIBA award for innovation in her first year and a Rainer Banham Certificate for Excellence in Scholarship. She was one of the 9 students who went on the NY-LON exchange program, and she's going to be coming up to tell us about that. But also, she's currently a Part 1 architecture assistant at David Chipperfield Architects, and she's also a young trustee of the Architecture Foundation and a member of the Open City Advisory Board. Clearly, she isn't finished yet. Over to you.
Thank you, Lauren, for that introduction. So like Lauren said, I was one of 9 participants in the NY-LON program. And there's so many takeaways from that program, but I can only say so many in these 5 minutes. One of the key highlights that I want to go through is just my personal story arc from the beginning of NY-LON to the end. I remember when I first got the offer, which I didn't think I was going to get. I was on the phone to Neil and I was like, Neil, do I really want to go? There's Trump, there's guns, there's crazy people, I'm scared. And he was like, it'll be fine. Going to New York is like going from London to London again. It's such a beautiful and exciting city. And he was right, it is a beautiful city, and I felt so comfortable, I felt so at ease. I felt so comfortable that by the end of the trip, I was making solo trips to Brooklyn Bridge. I booked an Uber to Brooklyn Bridge at 5 a.m. in the morning in pitch black before the sun had come out, on my own, just to take pictures. I have never done the equivalent of that in London. I've never gone to Tower Bridge for no reason at 5 a.m. in the morning, but I did in New York. That's how at home I felt. That's how much I fell in love with the city. It was just such a magical experience to have experienced spaces that I've grown up watching, like Central Park, like the Met, like Guggenheim. And to have experienced those spaces with the most incredible people was just incredible. My fellow NY-LONers have such a special place in my heart. We have such unique and beautiful memories together. We've developed such a lovely network, so not just our fellow participants, not just HomeGrown Plus, Neil, Caitlin, Francis, but also the architects in New York. We met some incredible practitioners from very big practices to smaller practices, some incredible educators at the Pratt, fellow students, and also unexpected networks. So the program had a really nice balance of space and structure. So there was this really incredible itinerary, but outside of that, we had space to sort of explore the city on our own. And I took some of that time to explore Queens. So we spent most of our time in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And I decided to go to Queens, because I was curious. And I can describe that as like the East London of New York. It's definitely like the cultural melting pot of the city. It's so diverse, it's so exciting. And there I met people who had similar interests to me, people who were exploring similar threads to what I'm exploring in my work. And it's really lovely to meet like-minded people on the other side of the world. That was quite surreal. I think developing a network is such a key part of doing well in architecture. I really think that it's the key to doing well and having long-lasting success in architecture. I always use this analogy, but when I started my education, I kind of felt like the students who started their undergraduate degree with an architect in their family, started off with an unwritten and invisible textbook. And the rest of us just didn't have that. It just meant that they knew how to express their ideas, communicate their thoughts in a way that was convincing, that was in line with the conventions of the industry. And it's something that's very difficult to read and study. It's something that's sort of built up over time. And the way that I caught up is by developing a network, is by getting involved in as many events, programs, activities as I could, which deepened my understanding, enriched my own interests, but also helped me learn. I think that's one of the really beautiful aspects of HomeGrown Plus, the fact that it's all about developing a network and developing a family, developing a support system. I think that helps make architecture feel not as elitist. One of the things that I did when I graduated from university is with a friend called Sana Tabassum, we founded a webpage called the Archiagora. Essentially what we did was we took experiences from graduates and current students and we put it onto one document, and that became a website, and that became a web page, and that became a community actually. And it was all about delineating the system of getting into university. So you're no longer looking at, well, our aim is that people no longer look at league tables to look at which university is the best one to go to, but they pick the one that's the most suited to them. I just wanted to share that with you as it's an initiative that's still developing and Neil gave me the opportunity to share it. So thank you for listening to me, and I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Amazing. Thank you, Bareera, for that. It was so great to hear what you experienced at NY-LON. I think just to echo what Bareera was saying about network, I think, in this room, I'm looking out to, like I said, such a broad crowd. One task for you guys as we go up until 11 p.m, because there's going to be a little party after this, I want everyone to try and speak to at least one person in the room which I don't know, just to build that network, because we're all good peoples in here. We're all good peoples, at least I think we are. So next on stage, we've got the Professor Michael Ramage. Michael leads the Centre of Natural Material Innovation at Cambridge University and lectures in the Department of Architecture. HomeGrown Plus and Cambridge University have collaborated on a 4-day summer school called Demystifying Cambridge. This provides an opportunity for students to experience what studying at Cambridge is like. And like I said in the introduction, these worlds are quite surreal to a lot of people. And I think that kind of breaking down of barriers is really important. So without further ado, Michael, please come on stage.
And I'm so excited and so privileged to be here. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Neil. And thank you to the students of mine. I've seen a few former students here already tonight, and I hope I'm looking at a lot of future students. As you heard in the introduction, I'm a professor of architecture and structural engineering at Cambridge, and I want to tell you two things here tonight, two things only. My natural inclination is to give you a lecture, but please don't worry. The first thing is Cambridge is open to you. I'm well aware that Cambridge is an unusual place. It's a foreboding place. It's a place that seems like its place in history has been set for hundreds of years. And I hope that you here today, and those of you who come before you and behind you, change that, change us. Our future is still to be written. I say that particularly with architecture and design in mind, but if you have friends, brothers, sisters, others, who want to come to Cambridge, please apply. We want you. We are a stronger, better, more interesting institution with many, many voices. And you can Google me, you can write me, and you can ask me questions. And if I don't respond, ask me again. So that's the first thing. Cambridge is open. I want to say that as loudly and as widely as possible. Cambridge is open to as many people as can come. It's, of course, a highly intellectual place. You need good grades to get there. But we're also part of a higher education group of institutions in the UK. If Cambridge isn't for you, hopefully there's another one that is, because we want to get you as well educated as you would like to be. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that at Cambridge we are starting a new degree, and I'm leading it, in design. It goes alongside the architecture degree, but it brings together architecture, engineering, material science to address societal goals like climate change, sustainable development. How do we collaborate together to make the world a better place? And I look out and I see so many wonderful faces representing the world as I know it, and as it is. And we have specifically thought quite carefully as we set this degree up, how do we look forward? Because the young people of today, the people we're teaching at GCSE level, at A level, and in university, in 5-10 years, you're going to be the people with the power to change the world. I might be retired. And you're the future. So we've designed this with your future, a future that you control in mind. It launches in January. We'll do a formal launch in the spring. But those of you who have yet to apply to university will be able to apply for it next year. It's called the Design Degree. It's for the creative industries. It's for those of you who are creative, who want to develop that. It could be architecture. It doesn't have to be architecture. So 2 messages. Cambridge is open. Please come. If you've got questions about it, please ask me. And second one is, we're starting something new. We think it's exciting, and we want you to help us make it exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Michael. I actually had the pleasure of bringing a batch of wide-eyed Year 13 students to the Demystifying Cambridge program. And on behalf of our students, at least, thank you so much for that experience. They gained so much from it, and I look forward to bringing another batch to experience the design degree, because I have no doubt that that will be just as breathtaking. So thank you for that. Okay, so our next person up, not sure she needs much of an introduction, but I will give her one anyway. Selasi Setufe is a London-based architect and was awarded a MBE for her services to diversity in architecture in the Queen's 2002 New Year's Honours. She is currently a senior architect and innovative sites program manager at Development and Urban Regeneration Company, Be First Regeneration Limited. Big mouthful. In 2018, she co-founded the Black Females in Architecture, or the BFA Network, and is also a trustee for students and associates at the RIBA. She is exploring socially responsive approaches to design, architecture, and placemaking with particular focus on cultural and environmental issues. I will invite her up here to spend a lot more time telling us about it. Thank you so much, Selasi.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Great. One correction.
Please.
I am no longer a trustee of the RIBA. This is slightly old. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I thank you so much, Neil, for inviting me. I don't know where he's vanished to. Yeah, thank you, gentleman in white, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be back in the RIBA. I haven't been in a while, so yeah, and great to see so many faces. So yeah, just kind of expanding on what was said, Neil asked me to come and share a bit about myself and about my journey, and I guess, yeah, just speak into my whys and hopefully encourage some of you all. So I think a lot of what's been said already is exactly my sentiments and exactly what the kind of things that I believe in as well. So yeah, I am from Barking, and I actually currently work in Barking for, as was said before, Be First Regeneration and Development Company. I attended, I did my undergrad at Portsmouth, and I did my postgrad in Manchester. I'm one of those, I guess I can relate to what Bareera was saying about not coming from a design background, so being quite wide-eyed and very naive and clueless coming into architecture education. Definitely didn't have the benefit of family or anybody around that could give me insight into what it was to study design or architecture. So yeah, it was an interesting journey, and admittedly, I kind of struggled. It was, the struggle was real. So yeah, I think, but it did shape me along my journey. I find it very difficult after my part 1 to find a job, and it brought me into this sort of way of thinking. Again, similar to what Bareera was saying around the importance of networks and the importance of just growing your understanding through the people that you know, and what other people can, help you understand better, and how people can connect you with other people and such. So coming out of part 2, I kind of had a new sort of sense of the direction I was going to go into. I wasn't no longer concerned with sort of the traditional route of architecture, and I'm glad to hear today of people talking about just being open-minded and exploring what design means, exploring what different schools can offer you, exploring what your interests are and where that takes you and where that leads you on to. And I think having that more broader open mind led me to attend more events and meet more people, just as what you're being encouraged to do today. Along the way, I met a wonderful mentor of mine called Selasi Setufe, who, again, opened my mind up to a whole breadth of things, was down on me so much to join the RIBA as a council member, and that's when I became a trustee of the RIBA. And through that journey, I met incredible people, from people like Diane Small, who's in the crowd today, who's a fantastic black woman as well, who's director of London for the RIBA. And yeah, it just opened me up. Selasi Setufe was the first black woman I had ever met who was an architect. And for me, that was mind-blowing. I've never been taught by a black person in my whole journey through education in the UK. Definitely not somebody who was teaching me architecture and was black. Definitely not a woman. So yeah, being surrounded by more and more people of diverse backgrounds and seeing possibility, I guess, was very, very enlightening, and kind of probably set about in motion me meeting great friends of mine, Niba, Sire, and a queer dancer, and together with a fourth person, we co-founded an organisation called Black Females in Architecture, and it was founded just off of the kind of things that I'm talking about, a lack of representation, and us going to an event and being so kind of amazed and shocked that there was fellow young black women in the audience. We bonded over that, formed a WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group turned into me adding one person, somebody else adding one person, which then grew and grew and grew and snowballed into what is now BFA. And we have 450 odd members worldwide, which is growing, and a whole host of friends and supporters from all sects and all walks of the built environment industry and design industry more widely. So yeah, I'm just sort of here to encourage you to be open-minded as you can be, as open-minded as you can be, and not to, I guess, navigate through your education and your career path with blinders on. Be open to, try different things, test different things, pivot and try new ways of existing, and I guess making most of your architectural education. You learn so much along the journey studying architecture that you can use in all sorts of ways. I think it lends itself well to you applying your skills in all sorts of ways. Graphics, any and everything. We are sort of multifaceted people at the end of architecture education. And I kind of just wanted to give you examples of people that have done incredible things, having studied architecture and not necessarily gone on to exist as architects or in the world of architecture as you might think. So an incredible person who I look up to and hold in very high esteem is a wonderful woman called Leslie Loco. Leslie Loco is an architect, she's an academic, she's a novelist. She established the School of Architecture, the Graduate School of Architecture in the University of Johannesburg back in 2015. She then became Dean of Barnard and and Spitzer University School of Architecture in New York. She then went on to create and establish the African Futures Institute in Accra, Ghana. And this year, she's been appointed curator of the Biennale, which takes place in Venice, which is next year, 2023. So that's an incredible example, and she's a fellow black woman. So yeah, very inspirational for me. I'm sure many of you might know Virgil Abloh, RIP. He was an architecture graduate turned renowned fashion designer and was the first African-American to be artistic director of French luxury brand Louis Vuitton. In case you didn't know, now you know. And also another great example is a man called Tinker Hatfield, who studied architecture and went on to become designer for Nike. And he's most well known for being behind the designs of Air Jordans from Air Jordan 3s through to 15. And he's, I think, lead of Nike's Innovation Kitchen. But yeah, just some examples for you to kind of get a sense of what I'm getting at in architecture education is a great launch pad to a diverse array of things if you just kind of keep yourself open to where that might take you. But yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Selasi. Amazing, beautiful, much needed work. Just to let you know, everyone, I'm wearing some Tinker Hatfield trainers now, Air Max 90s. They were inspired by the Pompidou Center. That's a fun fact of the exposed structure, just to let you know. And thank you, Selasi, for fact checking. I just had a word with our researcher, and we'll be talking with them later, so thanks for that. So next on stage, funnily enough, we've got someone who's going to speak about Virgil Abloh and his inspiration and how he's driven him to what he's doing now. His name is Jervin Tiongson, also going to be the future design Manny Pacquiao in my eyes. He's Filipino just like me, by the way, that's why. Jervin is an architectural apprentice, currently placed at BDP. His mission is to break down the barriers between the creative industries, and he will be given a short presentation on what he's working on lately. Jervin, over to you, man. Stay within this area.
Hello, hello. You hear me? Yeah? Is it working? Yeah, cool. So thank you for the intro. That was really cool. So I wanted to start off with a little short video from my role model, one of my mentors, the late great Virgil Abloh. You know, it was previously mentioned that he was an architect, he trained as an architect, and then he became the creative director of Louis Vuitton, which is just amazing. You can imagine the barriers he had to break down to be where he got to. So yeah, hopefully the video will kind of set the tone for what I'm going to speak about today. So yeah, let's play the video.
It's hard, it's lofty goals, and like, don't believe in, abolish the stereotype, and don't believe in the box that they put you in. But life is so short that you can't waste even a day subscribing to what someone thinks you can do versus knowing what you can do. And that's like the switch. It's like the switch in your head. If you can get to a place where you can act on that in the next hour after we're done speaking, I guarantee you it's a domino effect. Everything just starts like, sort of like, you know, obliterating itself away.
Yeah, shout out Virgil, man. R.I.P. So yeah, nice. So Virgil's a massive inspiration of mine. And I don't know, just to create barriers he broke down is crazy. And there's people like him, people like Joseph Henry, who we met in New York, and people all across New York that we met, that kind of inspired me to start my own stuff, kind of outside of architecture. First one being texture, because the architect went missing. So this is a undefined design studio that me and my friend Brazildo, shout out Brazildo, he's in the back somewhere. So he's my friend from university, and we started this kind of undefined design studio. The name itself came from one of our first lectures at university, where our lecturer Carlos, he broke down the word architect and what it meant in Greek. Archi meaning master or chief, and tect meaning builder. I'm gonna speak for myself now, I'm doing my part one. I am like extremely far from being a master in architecture. So this is kind of like where the idea stemmed from. And essentially what we want to do is kind of try to redefine, like Virgil said, it's lofty goals, but we want to essentially try to redefine what it means to be a master creative or a master designer. We want to try to redefine it, whether it be through clothing, furniture design, architecture, exhibition design, whether it's out of our own pockets or whether it's commissioned, we intend to just explore every single facet of the creative industry and try to break down the barriers and try to redefine architecture, essentially. We're trying to earn the R-key in a non-traditional way. So yeah, I'm just going to warn you guys, the stuff I'm going to show you today is like extremely crude, but there's a reason for it. And it's purely because I want you guys to leave here with a lot of, I want you guys to kind of wonder what I'm going to do next. I want to pique all of you guys' curiosity in what happens after this talk. So, is it working? Sorry, yeah. So yeah, these are some graphics that we've been working on. Super crude, like I said, but here's it. So the one on the left, I think is self-explanatory from the reaction. I feel like everyone who studied architecture has felt that way at some point or another during their studies. The one on the right, it was mentioned earlier, the cost of living crisis. It's peak right now, I'm telling you. And it's just ironic, you know what I mean, to poke at the irony of studying architecture. You know, we design homes, we design spaces to live in. But me, myself, I can't afford a gaff right now. You know what I mean? The cost of living crisis is crazy at the moment. So yeah, that's like a little taste of what we're doing. We have massive plans for the future. And yeah, it's a shameless plug, but if you want to follow us on Instagram, there's a couple of these, I'm so sorry. But it's 5 underscores and texture. If you really want to follow it, I'll be around after as well. I don't know why everyone's laughing. But yeah, no, I'll be around after as well. If you want to take a picture now, if you want to type in Instagram, go crazy, please. So yeah, another thing I'm working on at the moment, my little Corona business. Someday, by any means. That's kind of like the whole tagline. It's just called Someday, but by any means is the tagline. And by any means is kind of like a mentality that was instilled in me from my parents. My pops always told me, if you want to get something, if you want to do something, like work hard for it, by any means necessary. Do whatever it takes to get it, by any means. And that was like, it's a bit cringe, but like, it was super like, I don't know, it resonated with me from super young. And that whole kind of mentality is instilled in what I do here. So there's just a couple of stuff that I've been working on, a couple of tracksuits. It's become uniform in the place that I grew up in. You know what I mean? Everyone wears it. It's so comfortable. But yeah, no, so in New York, obviously I was wearing my clothes. Neil Pinder came up to me, he was like, yo, JT, is that Someday, yeah? And I was like, yeah. No, this is my clothing brand and whatnot. He's like, yeah, we got to collaborate. We got to do HomeGrown Plus X, Someday X, JT X, Neil Pinder, and all that. And I was like, you know what, say no more. And as I warned you earlier, it's super crude. But this is my favorite graphic that me and Neil have been working on. It's a little, you see the isometric is being informed by my architecture and whatnot. Huh?
Tell them the price.
Oh, I don't even know, Neil. That's on you. You're pricing it. You got the front, Neil. But yeah, no, so this is obviously, it's kind of my brand Someday, along with the New York, London kind of inspiration. And surrounding it, encapsulating all my ideas is all the stuff that Neil said a lot. Anyone on the trip knows that Neil was always saying, tell your own narrative, or own the room, which is what I'm trying to do right now. And and living your best life and whatnot. And that's just stuff that I'm trying to encapsulate within all my ideas. And again, sorry, another shameless plug. Someday by any means Instagram. You ain't got to buy nothing. You ain't got to buy nothing. If you're curious to see what me and Neil come up with next and what I come up with next, please, by all means, follow me on Instagram. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Neil, thank you so much.
Can I just say, we love the hustle. And if nothing else, Mark and I were just saying, if nothing else, we need to raise those 29 followers by the... Yeah, let's get those up. I believe it was 5 underscores, is that correct?
Sorry, 5 underscores.
5 underscores, all right, so 5 underscores. Let's get that, and that t-shirt is beautiful. We'll talk about price and discounts for various members. Right, okay, so this stage is great. I mean, the people who have been up so far, the diversity, the energy is brilliant, and we're going to continue that now as I invite up Fred Mills. Fred Mills is the founder and the managing director of B1M, the world's largest, most subscribed to, and best video channel for construction, with over 2 million YouTube subscribers, that number's probably gone up since, and 20 million viewers each month. Fred's videos have amassed hundreds of millions of views, making him a global figure in video publishing and a role model to millions of people currently working in construction and those who are interested in it. In 2002, Fred was named the IET's Honorary Fellow in recognition of his outstanding contribution to the public understanding of construction and engineering. Over to you.
Hey everyone. This is the B1M. Without moving my lips, look at that. Now, it's a privilege for me to be here tonight because the amazing people in this room shape our world. You guys work in an amazing industry, or you're about to work in an amazing industry that touches the lives of every child, every adult, and every elderly person in every corner of our planet. The problem we have is that most people don't know about our industry. Most people walking by on the street out here don't know about architecture and construction. They don't see our industry as we see it. They don't see the amazing people, the fantastic initiatives, the fantastic technology, the decisions being made that shape not just our cities, but our homes. The impact that we are having on climate change and the power that we possess to help turn that tide. Now, my mission in life is a really, really simple one. I love construction, and I want the whole world to love it too. I want to make this industry easier to admire, understand, and navigate for everybody, including the people currently working in it. We're never going to solve the skilled labor shortage if the rest of the world doesn't know about our industry, if they don't understand it, if they don't see the worth or the value, or really recognize the true impact that it has. A few years ago, I started a YouTube channel in my spare time after work. I started lifting up some of the amazing stories, some of the amazing things this industry does, and putting them in an engaging format, not in a trade magazine or a trade show or an inward-facing industry event, but on the platforms that billions of people check every day. I put it in their language, in relatable terms. I showed them how this industry affects their lives. That kind of took off. After a long slog, it kind of took off. And we're now the world's largest, most subscribed to video platform for architecture and construction, with more than 20 million viewers each month and more than 500 million video views in total worldwide. We now employ a team. Yeah, thanks. One person started that, didn't know my mum was here. We now employ a team of 17 people across 3 continents. We've been named by the Times as one of the 20 best educational YouTube channels in the world, not just in construction or architecture, but in the world, alongside TED Talks and Vox. We're running ad campaigns on the London Underground to try and get the British public and the New York public to think again about this industry. We've got a hit podcast. We've launched a new channel now called Tomorrow's Build with the strapline of Let's Build Our World Like This, a whole channel now with 5 million viewers a month about how we use construction to turn the dial on climate change. It's fantastic. It's been an amazing journey. There's some incredible things going on. I'm interviewing Sir Richard Branson. I'm filming inside Big Ben, inside nuclear fusion reactors. We're doing long-form documentaries about affordable housing in our cities, or rather the lack of affordable housing in our cities. Latest one we did, starring Mr. Neil Pinder, now has over 1.3 million views, which is awesome. We did another one on how extreme wealth and tax loopholes are reshaping architecture and construction in New York with those crazy skyscrapers over on Billionaires Row that's now got over 16 million views. We put a video on TikTok a week ago that got 16 million views in a day. The world cares about this industry. They love this industry. They're compelled by this industry when we talk to them about it in the right way. We have amazing stories. We have amazing stuff. We are amazing people. We just need to tell the world about it. That strapline, that mission of we love construction, we want the whole world to love it too, completely defines me to my core. It guides everything I do. I'm not running a business for revenue or profit. I'm running it for a mission and to deliver on that mission. I'm running it because I want everyone in this room and in this industry to remember why they came into this industry and the impact it has on our world. I'm doing it because I know we can cut through to millions of little boys and girls just like me, just like I used to be, who love building things just like I used to. We can get them to see past the fire department, or the astronauts, or the Marvel superheroes they see on TV, or the Instagram influencers, and say, no, I want to come here. I want to shape our world. I want to build that. I want to be part of this. This is the industry where you change the world. It is the best industry in the world, and I will argue anyone with that all day until I'm blue in the face, because I 100% categorically believe it. I love this industry. I want the whole world to love it too. I'm on the journey to get in there. There's a lot of people in the world, 8 billion now, but we're on the way. And I want to show you a short video now that goes to the heart of my mission and the heart of what I do. I think we need to talk a lot more about not the how and the what and the bureaucracy and the process, but the why we do it and the impact we have. This video is all about the why, and it kind of gets across, I hope, why I love construction and why I completely believe that we need the whole world to love it too.
This is our world, shaped by what we build, by people we barely notice, people who dream, who imagine, who innovate, solve, and make the impossible happen. To work here is to shape, to write the future, to move the dial. To work here is to make a difference. This is a sector that doesn't shout about itself, that isn't good at celebrating what it does, that many of the best and most talented people don't even notice. This is what happens when you shine a light on the world's most important industry, when millions of people begin to understand how their planet is built, when they start shaping their own world, when they take control, when they can have a say. This is what happens when you make construction accessible, when you show it for what it really is, when you break it down, when you bring people with you. This is what happens when you lift up amazing stories and finally tell them to a mass audience, when you show what's possible.
It's extremely exciting trying to sort of break boundaries and push things forward.
This didn't happen by accident. It came from a decade of care, dedication, passion and love, from breaking down barriers, from challenging the rules and daring to be different, from upending the norm. This is our world, our future. This is what it can be. This is construction. This is the B1M.
Thank you, Fred, for that. Very inspirational. And please follow B1M if you haven't already. I think it's so amazing, the fact that, architecture is often seen as quite an exclusive profession, and this is really trying to make it, completely accessible on YouTube for anyone to watch and see. Thank you for that. So next up, we've got Joseph Henry. Joseph Henry is also an ex-student of Neil Pinder's, as we are. Joe is a designer and urbanist whose practice involves working closely with institutions to be more progressive in how they shape our urban environment. He's also the co-host of the now sadly ended Sound Advice, which explored new forms of spatial practice, and they also knew how to throw a couple parties or two. Joe also has been selected as part of a team to co-curate the British Pavilion at Venice Biennale 2023. So without further ado, Joe Henry.
All right, good evening. I'm actually getting this my speech. I'm not going to go on Instagram. But like all things to do with Neil Pinder, it begins with a phone call, or someone's like laughing there from like trauma of these phone calls, or 5 to be exact. And every single one of Neil's phone calls happens at like the worst opportune moment. Like, he never calls you when you're on your like sitting, not doing anything. So the first time I ever had to present a project to the Mayor of London, just, right, Sadiq, this is what we're going to do. I can imagine doing it. And then I remember that Sadiq's kids were taught by Neil. So I was like, I need to like just shut this. I know who this is. I need to like shut this guy. He's like, oh, how do you know Neil? Last time I saw Neil, he like harangued me at City Hall at an event. So, you know, Neil runs architectural social enterprises like an Ibiza club promoter, which I really respect. And in a way, that's kind of probably why we ended up doing Sound Advice in the way that we did. He was like the first inspiration. So anyway, I didn't actually answer his phone call. I let it ring through, and I get a voicemail, and it's just Neil saying, you know, yo, Joe, bless. 18th of whatever month this is, RIBA, I need you. You've got 5 minutes to inspire young people to be architects. And then often when we talk about inspiration, to me, it like unduly puts the pressure to succeed on those who are at the bottom of the profession. It's like, when you can inspire these young people, they'll suddenly achieve stuff. And it kind of strikes me that the onus is actually on people with a little bit of agency and the resources to be inspired, to open the opportunities to them, and to like buy their t-shirts or follow them on Instagram, or just to like be generous with what they do. Because when I was thinking about, well, if I'm gonna stand here and talk about how did I get to wherever I am now, I think it's more interesting to think about who helped me get here rather than what I did to achieve like success in inverted commas. And I think the reality, thinking about it today, is that I don't have any intrinsic better values or intelligence or attributes more than anyone else I've ever met in the industry. What I did have was some really important people who helped me succeed, who sustained me in this industry. I think one of the saddest things about architecture is that people often, when they end up at the end of their part ones, they decide to like not drop out, but they don't continue. They don't get their jobs. I would say that most of my students who are from minority backgrounds at CSM, even if they're the top of the school, of the class, will be the last people to get jobs. So I can inspire them as much as I want, but those opportunities have to facilitate their successes. So I thought, rather than explain what I've done to get where I am, I was going to explain all the people that have helped me get where I am. And then you'll see, this isn't really about us, it's about you helping people like me to succeed. So obviously it begins with Neil Pinder. Neil Pinder deleted my UCAS submission to study product design at Sussex. Had a place. I was so happy I was going to do product design at Sussex. He's like, nah, do architecture, delete. And then I told my mum, I was like, can you believe these teachers these days? And she was like, that's right, you just listen to him. Now work in Uniqlo for a year, get me staff discount, and then study. So I did that, and I went to Brighton to study architecture. But before that, there was Jenny Wedgbury, Ros Croker, Venetia Wolfton, Susie Zuber, Victoria Thornton at Open City that allowed me to intern whilst I was working at Uniqlo. So I was working at Uniqlo 4 days a week and then interning 2 days a week at Open City. That opened my eyes up to the industry before I ever got to study in it. And then you get to Brighton, had tutors like Tony Roberts, Kate Shane, Ben Sweeting, who allowed me to do projects based on music, to speak about my culture and my history in a legitimized way at university. I then had a tutor called Alex Warnock-Smith, who I saw that he had, I didn't know, I went all the way through architecture school and didn't know what the British Pavilion or Venice Biennale was. But I saw that one of my tutors had got an opportunity to exhibit in it. I was like, Venice, that sounds posh. There must be money involved. Turns out there isn't, but if anyone's got any money, let me know. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna drop him an email. I feel like I didn't flop in the class. Maybe he'll get a job. So he gave me a job. My first job ever in architecture was editing videos to go in the British Pavilion. I then worked for him for 4.5 years. He allowed me to work at his studio 3 days a week whilst I studied full-time at the CAS. Then at the CAS, I had a tutor called Pierre Devoine. And I said, look, Pierre, like, a lot of the other tutors are anti the fact I work, but I haven't got no choice. I've got to work. I can't just be like, I'm not one of these like Cambridge kids that populates this school. I've got to like earn money and study. He said, look, don't worry. You can come to my studio after you work, and we can talk about your project. We can talk about your things outside of work hours. So without him, there's no way I would have got through those that 1.5 years under his tutelage. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not about me. It was about everyone else. It was the generosity of others. So the most inspirational thing I can say is whenever you get an opportunity or whenever you have the chance, please just be generous to other people and allow them to succeed, because no one got there on their own. Like, no one ever is like the sole success of individual creativity or brilliance. Like, we see what happens to society when people believe that and when they get into power. So I think it's on all of us to espouse a different type of politic and a different type of ethic. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Joseph. Okay, so having graduated from London South Bank University, Carmel is going to come up, and she is currently an apprentice architectural assistant at BDP, that's Building Design Partnership Limited. She works with architects and other professionals, such as engineers, to design buildings and deliver architectural projects across scheme phases. I'll hand over to her to tell you a little bit more about herself and what it is that she did.
Wow, there's a lot of you. I get a bit nervous now. And can I just say, everyone who has presented so far, you guys really set the bar high. Like, getting nervous. But before I start talking about my experience, I just want to give my thanks. So obviously, we've been talking about Mr. Neil Pinder. Thank you so much for organizing this. But we also have Dennis, your partner. We have Francis. We have Joseph, who also came out. And we have Marlon back there, and we have Caitlin as well, who helped to organize all of this. So everyone, can we please just give them another round of applause? So, like I said, the presentations so far have been amazing. Very sorry, I haven't got a presentation to show you. I haven't even really thought of a speech. But I'm hoping that if I speak from the heart, hopefully that will do. So, start of NY-LON, we applied, and then I was privileged to have a place in it. And at first, you're kind of thinking, okay, a free holiday, a free trip to New York, what's the catch? But, okay, well, maybe it's just a hoax, we'll see what happens. So then a group chat is made on WhatsApp, and you're like, okay. And then you turn up, and you start to meet everyone there, and you're like, okay, this is a real thing. And then soon you're on a plane and you're landed in New York and you're like, okay, this is serious. This is serious. But I think what I want to talk about today and my experience of New York is not just that we got to see some amazing buildings, obviously, in New York. We didn't just get to go to all of these studios and talk to amazing people and how they work there. But there's something more important about NY-LON, something that I gained from this. So going back to when we first all met, first question I asked Mr. Pinder is, why are you doing this? Who would decide to put this together? And to be honest, I didn't really understand it until the end of the trip. In fact, I remember exactly when the light bulb turned on in my head. We were on top of our hotel at the rooftop bar by the pool, looking at the Empire State Building. It sounds amazing to say that, sorry, I just really wanted to. And we were sitting on these sun lounges, and me and Neil, we were just talking about life, you know, just getting to know each other. And then it hit me. What he'd been talking about this whole time is giving an opportunity to people who don't usually have the opportunity in this world. And what I mean by that, when I first started working at BDP, I walked in, and again, it is just the way the system is, but I walked in and I felt very alone. You know, I come out of school, straight into this massive corporate organization. I look around, hella white people. Hella white people. And this is the first time I've experienced that, oh my goodness, I'm a young woman of color, and what that actually means, the pressures that come with it, and how alone I felt. Sure thing, I am an apprentice, and BDP have supported me wonderfully in that. However, I think it's only through this opportunity of going to New York, meeting the amazing people there, and everything that has come with it, I've been able to realize that there is more behind this. There is a whole community of people out there a whole coalition for change within this industry. I have had the blessed opportunity to do a couple of outreach programs, and I wasn't even planning to mention this, but it's really hit me, and in fact changed my perception of not just how I view architecture, but how the younger generation do. So I did my presentation talking about architecture, talking about how to get a job, all of that. And the classroom ends, everyone's leaving. Thank you, miss, yes, you're welcome. There was a young girl and her friend, they were left behind. And she said to her friend, I was just there, oh, why are we even thinking about going into architecture? Come on, we're black, we're not going to get into that. I turned around so quickly, and I was able to say, okay, sure thing. I'm half black, I'm half white, but I have been able to meet so many amazing people who are of color, who are of an ethnic descent, and they are starting to make movements within this industry, as we can see today. So I think if there's something that I would like to bring across from this speech, is that we all have a responsibility. Every single one of us in this room, every single one of us who is in the construction industry, whether you are of a different race or if you're of a different socioeconomic background, you have a voice, use it. We need this industry to change. We need to bring people from these backgrounds into it because that's who we're designing for. We're not just designing for a particular sort of person. We need to design for the people who live on this planet. So, through NY-LON and through many different foundations out there who are promoting, bringing people, bringing talent from these backgrounds into these industries, the scene is changing. The scene of this industry is changing. The responsibility lies on us. It lies on myself. It lies on each of you. The question is just to what extent? And I guess we'll have to see. Thank you. Thank you. Go first. Yeah, no.
Thank you, Carmel, and thank you for exposing the fact that you're on a rooftop swimming pool. That's what I'll be signing on to the next NY-LON as well. So next up, we've got Dennis Austin. Dennis Austin is the co-founder of Dab Design and is an advisor of HomeGrown Plus. Dennis strongly believes in the importance of drawing and harnessing the curiosity of young minds to engage the next generation of designers, city makers, and architects, and he's definitely doing that right now alongside Neil Pinder. So Dennis, please come on stage.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks, Lauren. I'm gonna have to drink a lot of water. NY-LON 22 was a bit of a dry run. Bit of a test. We had never done anything like this. We had never taken people out of the UK, let alone go to the States. Luckily, we were in the protective hands of Francis Long and Caitlin Latimer Smith, as Carmel just said. They did an amazing job. The idea of NY-LON is not a jolly, it's rooftops. Yeah, we knew there was a rooftop bar. We knew there was a pool. The idea of NY-LON is sort of born in the context of that unacceptable attrition rate of Part 1 students of non-traditional backgrounds not making it all the way through. The students who, at age 13, 14, in environments like that Neil creates, come up to the teacher and say, I don't know what it is, but this thing of problem solving through graphics and through massing and building. I have no idea what an architect is, but what you're talking about is something I want to do. And then from 13 to 16 and 18, and get into university, and finally climb that hill and do your Part 1. It's exhausting. I think there's an enormous amount of pressure on students today, more so than there's ever been. Get into the right school, get into the right studio, have the right relationship with the right tutor, learn the best program, do the drawings that you're expected to do, have the coolest rendering. That's an enormous pressure. When we started NY-LON, we were beginning to look at, with HomeGrown Plus, a lot of you know us for what we do with secondary schools. And it's all about taking that energy, that enthusiasm that we do with secondary schools, and begin to look at that critical Part 1, Part 2 breakage. And HomeGrown Plus is going to be looking at working post Part 2 and working with micro SMEs from non-traditional backgrounds. But NY-LON was born not to reward those who were incredibly talented. This wasn't about giving a prize because you do some great work. When Neil and I were talking about, we were trying to think about how could we be incredibly effective to this group of students in an age group who are just having arrows shot at them left and right, through socioeconomic, through school, through the language of walking into a design studio, and being from a family of first generation UK, first generation English, where the pressure, if you can get into university, is become a lawyer or a doctor. What the hell are you doing becoming an architect? So we were trying to think about how could we be effective quickly? And does that mean we try and develop a scholarship? Do we try? That was going to take too long. How do we get all that money? And this idea of travel and becoming this underground Erasmus, we started back and forth about it. And it became this idea of how can we get students to interact and exchange with other students? How can we get them out of their comfort zone? Get them into, say, a city like New York, expose them to the environment. When we did that, and it's fantastic to hear you, Carmel, we were anticipating that. And we're trying to think about, how do we do this? How do we take kids to another country? And so this idea that NY-LON is not to reward those because they're fantastic. Actually, with the 90-ish applications that we had, there was a theme, there's a thread Francis and I found when we read through them. And it was a mix of people who felt good about themselves. They weren't, beating their heads against the wall. But there was a really healthy sense of doubt. It wasn't about self-doubt. It was a doubt about many, many things. The application, we asked people, submit some work, and please answer these 2 questions. And that thread for the group that were selected was all about sincerity. And it was something that is fantastic to see. We see travel as something as the most important thing for an architect student. We want to get to the point where that life experience becomes ingrained. We want that travel to come back so that when those part ones eventually get back into studio and the tutor is talking about juxtaposed grids of organic urban grids versus non-organic grids and the juxtaposed grid, I want one of our HomeGrown Plus students to kind of scratch their head and raise their hand and say, you mean like when you're standing at Chambers Street and you look up Broadway and that perspective, all of a sudden you see this wall in Midtown versus when I stand at 3rd Avenue, I look uptown and it's this canyon. So the juxtaposed grid is actually, it's Broadway. So I looked on the plan, I saw that Broadway actually kicks to the left. Or you're talking about organic grid versus inorganic grid, you mean Midtown versus the West Village. If we could provide those experiences for students, they have that for their lifetime. It's in their pocket. They can pull it out whenever they want. They can bring it to a tutor, and for that brief moment, they're on a level ground with the tutor. And they're telling that tutor, I've got life experiences as well, and they count, and they're important. The other thing about this context of greater representation of who designs our environments. We're living in a bubble of time right now where there's an appetite in the corporate world for diversity, equity, diversity, and inclusion. You can't click on a website without any of the corporates, boom, boom, boom. And that's great, but it has a lifespan. And that lifespan is going to be really short. The corporate world will follow trends. We only have to look at the trends that are going on in politics, whether it's politics in the UK, the government that's being brought into power in Italy, the ultra-right in France, or the conservative US Supreme Court. The Supreme Court are about 15 minutes away in the next few weeks of changing affirmative action programs that major universities in the US have created in an uphill battle to ensure that more students of color are brought in and brought through that door. And right now, with the Trump-oriented right-wing Supreme Court, we're this far away from it. The fight for EDI needs longevity. I can't think of a better example of longevity than Neil. His 27-ish years as a teacher is longevity. He's a walking UCAS. He is a walking reference. We can't live on this moment right now where everyone wants to create greater representation because it's not going to last. It's going to recede. Longevity is HomeGrown Plus. It's NY-LON. It's exchange with students. Going further with NY-LON, F22 was a test, and we passed the test with flying colors, and it's great to hear everyone talk about it, the students who've been through it. Going further, we want to travel with more students, whether it's 23 or 24, we're not sure yet, depends on funding. We want to go with a group of 15, and we want to spend a week in New York with Pratt. Pratt is a great partner. Harriet did an amazing job setting this up. And we want to spend a week with 15 Pratt students, and we want to exchange. We then want to bring those 30 back to London, and we want to set up in a London-based architectural school. So Neil Chassor is here, and we would love to do it with Neil. We'll do it with whomever. And we want to create life-changing experiences for 30 kids who are then going to become the ambassadors for longevity. Once we do that, they keep building. They keep bringing that message. And then when the corporate world ceases to look at EDI as a topic of the month, we don't give a shit because we've got those roots. In order to do that, we need funding. So to the practices out there, we need help. To those who have a foot in New York and London, and you've been part of our ride for 22, we're incredibly grateful. And we are looking forward to continuing further. We need more help. We need help with funding. We need help with organization. To practices out there who are contacting us and say, how can we work together? First answer is funding. I know it sounds crude, but we need it. To the practices who can't fund, we understand. Help us into your network of clients, of corporate clients, who need to feed on EDI. Put us in connection with that. I will not try and list the gratitude of the people who participated in NY-LON 22, but I cannot overlook two. One is Kara Kusevich-Carson. Paul Kara Kusevich had our back on NY-LON 22. Paul will be forever grateful. The second is British Airways. British Airways BA Better World Community Fund, and a woman named Mary Brew, has been amazing. And she is with us for the long run. Those are the only two I'm going to thank. The others, I don't want to mess up, so thank you very much. I'm not going to blow the list. To the students out there, keep an eye on us. We're going to launch NY-LON 23, the application, hopefully end of March. Keep an eye out. It's going to be a trip. When we go further, we want to go to other cities. When we grow and create that link with a London-based architectural school and Pratt, we then want to perhaps go to Boston and Detroit and Chicago and maybe even to that other coast, the West Coast. So to the students, keep an eye on us. You are the most important network. You are the network that makes sure that we have longevity. Because the more you grow and the more you integrate, you practice, and you become the Joseph Henrys, you become the people who are going to make the change. Thanks a lot.
Very clear messages there. Thank you so much. Before I bring him up, everyone has a Neil Pinder story. I think that's one thing you might have got from now. Don't worry, I won't give you mine, but you know the gist, the phone calls, ignoring them, being dragged into things, etc., etc. And for me personally, has been kind of like an inspirational uncle, let's go with that one. Let's go with that one. And I myself ended up somehow as one of his disciples, if you like, doing my best to take some of the messages to students in the school and the teachers as well, as head of STEM and the arts at a school in West London. And it is a common belief that teenagers are a nightmare and a headache. And I can see some educators in the room as well. I can confirm that is 100% true. The rumours are all true. But that is because they are figuring things out. They are faced with lots and lots of challenges all at once. They don't know things. They need to know things. They want things. And with that, the inspiration, the role models, some of you coming up and saying, oh, I haven't got this profile to share, but it's those people who are bridging those gaps and sharing those messages with our young people and making sure that they really, really can flourish. So to reinforce those messages and to be, to be breaking the mold, to be that black teacher that you didn't have, all of those things, all of these things coming together to make a massive impact. And it's only when it's here can we really, really feel and see the impact of it. And for bringing us all here, thank you so much, Neil Pinder.
Right, good evening. Before I do my bit later on, I want to basically introduce you to the president in waiting. I've met him several times. He's an absolutely amazing person, full of energy, full of personality. Oh, I'll give you one anecdote. My headmaster, who Joseph and everyone knows, said, Neil, always surround yourself with people more intelligent than yourself. They make you look good. And he's making me look very good. Right, a big round of applause to Maria.
Thank you, Neil, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you, Lauren and Mark, for hosting it today. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys and to celebrate with you guys this wonderful event, HomeGrown Plus. Welcome to the home of architecture, 66 Portland Place, and I hope you guys are having a good evening. I understand how much hard work it is to put things like this together. I tried to do an event as well during the campaign in the summer, and it's no mean feat. A little background about me. About 15 years ago, I too was one of a cohort in a non-profit social mobility foundation just like this. It was called the African Caribbean Diversity, ACD for short. We had our own charismatic leader. Her name was Brenda King. She didn't manage to take us to New York. However, what she managed to do was to help us create the highest, grandest vision possible for ourselves, for our lives, because she said, you become what you believe. And I believe that's what we're trying to achieve here at HomeGrown Plus. I wanted to be an architect, effect change. I had a desire to create and serve the common good. So I went to university. I graduated from the University of Sheffield, the School of Architecture. It was really a diverse a cohort of teachers, but not students. In some ways, like has been said already today, I felt a little bit alone. I was one of 2 black students back then in the early 2010s. I don't want to give my age away. And I was eager to change things, actually. And I became purposeful about encouraging diversity within architecture and into architecture. And one of the motivations for taking part in this event today and running for the RIBA president. And at my previous firm where I worked, Grimshaw, I founded and chaired our multi-ethnic staff network. Hope it's still going, okay? And I see here today the global majority of people that are willing to share knowledge with students from non-traditional and traditional background. So for the benefit of everyone here in the room, I am going to play a little game called Raise Your Hand If. Okay? Just play with me, right? Raise your hand if you're a student, a Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, or architectural worker. Cool, that's good. How many people here are associates, directors, and above? Partner, founder, a trustee, or some kind? Raise your hand. Good. Just take note, everyone. How many people here is a mentor to young people, work with young people in the built environment? Yep, everyone look around. Who is the head of school in education? Neil, I'm looking at you. Raise your hand. I'm sure we have people who have won RIBA awards or part of the RIBA medal nominees or something like that. If any of you, raise your hand. Okay. Any AJ 40 under 40 person here? No? 30 under 30. We have that? I don't know. Okay. Journalists or anyone who works in media? Okay, cool. How many people are not from London? Oh, wow, it worked. I thought it was going to be lots of London people. That's worked better than I thought it would. So lastly, who is part of the HomeGrown Plus alumni network or part of the student exchange? It's great to see you guys here. All of this was to demonstrate that the next time you feel alone like I did back in the day, or you question whether you make it to the top, or you don't know who to turn to for motivation, remember being in this room. Remember those who raised their hands, take their names, go and talk to them. They're here because they're willing to be mentors and to show some support. There's no doubt, like it's been said quite a lot today, about the value of diverse thinking and diverse talent in the built environment. So I'm making a point to tell you guys to speak to these people who have raised their hands today, exchange details with at least 5 of them. You know, there are journalists in the room, there are recruiters in the room, there are architectural practice owners in the room. And there's also the incredible talent pipeline of students. I'm in awe of what Neil Pinder and HomeGrown Plus have done. We share a similar vision, which is to establish architecture's mass appeal and to retain its prestige. So even better than just exchanging the details, let's make sure that we take some actionable learnings from tonight so that we can apply it to all our careers. Thank you for having me here, Neil, and thank you for listening. And on to the next thing. Thank you.
Oh, it's me again, yeah? Right, so thank you very much, Mr. President in waiting, right? I had to put that one in. But first of all, I must say that I'm eternally grateful for everybody coming here tonight. Yes, we was sold out, and which was a really good thing to see, even if it's an educational project or it's one of my raves that I used to do. It's really good to see something get sold out. I must thank all of our sponsors who basically, they just give us the money. And as Joseph said, if you don't want me to ring you, don't give me your number. And if you give me your number and you're in a place of position and power and you're in a practice and you can sort this out, you know I'm going to be asking you for some wedge. So please, if you don't mind me ringing you, give me your number. If not, you know, you can circumnavigate me at any time. But the major reason we're here tonight, oh, sorry, a couple other things. I'd really like to thank Dennis Austin, who basically, he's the MD, and we've worked together for about 12 years, and he came to us just after lockdown. He said, let's work together. And I said, I've got a couple of ideas, like usual, and then from there on, everything has just been spiraled upwards. And I must give a massive shout out to that young lady over there, Frances Long. She's an absolute diamond. She came to me. Don't worry, at the end, they're all coming up on stage, so you'll be able to see them in their full glory. I'll give a shout out to Caitlin, because when we was in New York, she kept saying things that my wife would say to me. And my wife is there, and I would look to her and I'd say, and I'm going to introduce them both tonight to each other. And she would just say things like me, "What's the matter with you?" And I think to myself, but you're not my wife, you know? And at the same time, I'd give a big shout out to Mr. Paul Karakusevich over there. There he is, the man over there, and he's been absolutely phenomenal with HomeGrown Plus. And he does take my phone call every time I ring him, and he does reply back to me when I DM him and text him and everything else. I'd also like to give a big thanks out to Neil Sharshaw. There he is, because tonight, and Neil is an amazing person, because when I first met Neil, I sat down with my mouth open like, hey, I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I said to him, Neil, every time I talk to you, I have to get Siri out, because, you know, I have to just translate what you say. But Neil's absolutely amazing. And he did a guided tour, historical guided tour tonight of the whole venue. I'd also like to thank my two compatriots here. Lauren, who I've given her the stage. And now she's got a part-time, full-time job with me. She didn't know it yet, but anyway. And then Mark. So if anybody plays basketball, if you play basketball, you go to Brixton, you'll see that multicolored basketball court. That is the man. And if you want to commission anybody to do a basketball court, a playing court, me and Mark and the team are teeing up. So we've got several collaborations going there. And we'd also like to say a big thank you to the NY-LON students who came. They were absolutely phenomenal. I'd also like to say a big thank you to one of the persons who I first started this journey with, and it was some time ago, and I can't remember the date, years or whatever, and we collaborated in something called Celebrating Architecture, and that was the beginning where we took young kids to an adventure of drawing, model making in the Serpentine, in Hyde Park. And one of the guys here tonight, Finn, him and Ellis from the AF, they sat down in front of, or we sat down, and they said, right, what do you want to do now? I said, well, I would like to do this. And they said, write a proposal. And I thought, shit, write a proposal? I'm a teacher, I don't write proposals. You know, we just smart books, you know. And so I rang Venetia up and I said, Venetia, help. And Venetia said, what? And then after our relationship started, Venetia was writing, and we actually contemplated a company called Blagger and Backup. And I think I was going to be the blagger, right? But the reason why we're here tonight is we want to see this absolutely fantastic film, which has been put together and made by Francis, who is, as I said, absolutely amazing photographer, cinematographer, and here we go. It's called NY-LON, of course. like everybody to come up on the stage because we're going to just do the last little thing. How about being proud? Yes? Come on, guys. Come up. Don't be shy. Suddenly they're all shy. They're on film and now they're shy. Come on, come on, come on. Is there anyone here from Graveney who I used to teach? Because they threatened to come. No? Right, guys, these are the fantastic students, the people who came, the people we've worked with. As you can see, they're amazing young people, and I'm so proud. What I'm going to do is what I finish every lesson with. Could we stand up, please? All stand up. You what? Yeah. Right, put your palms together, everybody. Yeah, so they know it. Oh, God. Caitlin knows it. Right. Palms to the heart for actions of peace. Palms to the lips for words of truth. Palms to the head for thoughts, love, peace, and happiness. With all of these words, with all of these thoughts, we should go ahead and make sure we spread the love. Have an absolutely fantastic day, weekend, year. Spread the word. Architecture, construction, diversity, the global majority is here to stay. Have a fantastic time. Namaste.